At a Royal Air Force base in Scotland, the team was preparing for an emergency. An aircraft crossing the Atlantic had been hijacked. Colonel Drummond was called in to take command. He arrived with a serious and focused demeanor. An officer briefed him, reporting that the pilot and CO pilot were presumed dead, and that one of the passengers appeared on Germany's terrorist watch list. The news was startling. Colonel Drummond proceeded to the control center where his team had established contact with the plane and was instructing it to land. Another officer kept close watch as the aircraft approached. Though the landing was rough, the plane touched down successfully. Drummond ordered a closer inspection and attempted to communicate with the crew to understand the situation on board. Suddenly, movement was observed near one of the doors. A parachute dropped, and a young boy emerged. 2 RAF trucks rushed forward to retrieve him. It became clear that this was a serious terrorist incident. Drummond noticed someone new in the cockpit and radioed him, warning that any movement would lead to being shot. The man was ordered to remain seated and raise his hands. The stranger insisted he wasn't a terrorist and pleaded for a chance to explain, repeating that they had to believe him. Later, a translator was brought in to speak with the boy Elias. A doctor examined him, but Elias was too shocked to respond. The story then rewound to the previous day. In a hotel room, Elias's mother, Nadia, was preparing for their upcoming flight. She spoke to her doctor in New York about a mysterious illness she was dealing with. Later, Elias called her to say that he had already checked in their luggage. That night, Nadia met him at the airport. They passed through security and waited for boarding. Nadia went to the restroom, where she mixed her Medicat ion, drank a liquid, and injected herself. Back in the waiting area, Elias chatted with a man named Farid, who asked about his mother. Soon, Nadia returned, and the two boarded the plane. A flight attendant offered coffee to the pilots before heading to the crew area. She asked a colleague, Eightball, to deal with a difficult passenger in first class. The flight departed Germany, heading toward the United States. Later, Nadia returned from the bathroom, wrote in her notebook, and came across a photo of herself and her husband. She remembered a time when their car had broken down in a remote area. Her husband had gone to seek help while she stayed with their baby. Eventually, she had wandered into a forest and found an abandoned house. Inside, she had followed a trail of blood into the basement, where she was attacked by a vampire. She had managed to lock herself in, found her husband's lifeless body, and was bitten just before sunrise destroyed the creature. Back on the plane, something began unfolding at the front. Eightball tried calming a passenger, but the situation escalated. An air marshal intervened. Eightball pulled a knife and killed the second marshal. A passenger disabled the first one. Eightball then sent Curtis to find and kill the third marshal. Curtis returned with her weapon, and Eightball murdered the final marshal in front of another hijacker, Carl, who appeared visibly disturbed. Meanwhile, Nadia sensed that something was wrong. Eightball revealed a weapon and forced the passengers to remain seated. His team herded everyone to the rear of the aircraft. Berg, another hijacker, moved to the cockpit, conversed with the CO pilot, Bastian, and threw the pilot's body out. He then announced that they had taken control of the plane and ordered the passengers to remain still with their hands on the seats. At the same time, hijacker Yuri altered the flight recorder and informed Berg. The CO pilot rerouted the aircraft. Elias, worried for his mother, studied the layout of the plane to help her avoid sunlight. Curtis escorted Farid to the front while Carl tried to keep Eightball calm. Elias left his seat. Nadia followed him, but Eightball shot her in front of Elias. He grabbed the boy while Carl warned him to stay quiet. Berg and Curtis discussed the chaos. Berg reprimanded Eightball for acting without orders and used Nadia's shooting to intimidate the passengers. He warned that if Eightball acted up again, he would personally kill him. However, Nadia regained consciousness in the cargo area. Hearing dogs barking, she climbed through a hatch. Meanwhile, Berg forced Farid and 2 others to record a fake terrorist video. Nadia hid under a car as Curtis and Yuri arrived to collect bomb-making tools. While Yuri worked, Nadia fed on a dog. The noise drew Yuri, who discovered her, but Nadia killed him. Farid returned to sit with Elias. Nadia, now fully transformed, attempted to medicate herself but overheard Berg discussing a countdown. She drank Yuri's blood to regain strength and moved toward the cabin. The hijackers deceived the passengers, threatening to release gas if anyone resisted. They later discovered Yuri's body beside the dead dog, which Nadia had staged to mislead them. Shortly after, Nadia found Elias in the back. The passengers panicked, believing she was the threat. Together, Nadia and Elias rushed to the cockpit and were stunned to find the pilots gone. She pleaded for anyone who could fly the plane. One man stepped forward, and Nadia led him to the controls. Farid stayed behind to inform the others about the hijackers' real plan. Inside the cockpit, Nadia locked the door. The hijackers prepared to parachute, wearing diving suits. Berg communicated with someone who would retrieve them from the ocean. Nadia began changing again, frightening Elias. The new pilot stated the plane was still on autopilot. Nadia watched the hijackers through the security feed and instructed him not to make any changes until they jumped. Eightball soon discovered she was still alive. He returned with Berg and demanded her location. A passenger revealed she was in the cockpit. The hijackers began pounding on the door, demanding it be opened. Nadia ordered the pilot to reroute the plane back to the US even though it was now closer to Europe. Terrified, he agreed. Realizing the change in course, Berg became furious. He killed a passenger and threatened to continue unless the cockpit was opened. Eightball brought a young girl forward. Berg held her up for Nadia to see and started a countdown to shoot her. Before he could finish, Nadia burst from the cockpit and bit Berg's neck. Chaos erupted. The pilot locked the door behind her, keeping Elias safe. Nadia killed Berg and chased the other hijackers, but Berg began transforming into a vampire. Sensing the change, Nadia returned and finished him off with a knife. Eightball witnessed the event and appeared to form a sinister plan. Nadia returned to the cockpit and told Elias to remain inside. She locked herself in the bathroom, noticing she was continuing to transform. Meanwhile, Eightball searched her bag, found her notebook and read it. He told the other hijackers she was a vampire. Carl remained skeptical, thinking Eightball had lost his mind. Eightball showed them a UV light, claiming it would harm her like sunlight. Inside the bathroom, Nadia injected herself. Memories of the past overwhelmed her. How she had struggled to care for baby Elias while needing blood to survive. One night, Elias had cried non-stop. Frustrated, she had hissed at him, but quickly retracted her fangs to avoid harming him. Later, she had visited the place where she was first turned, and met the father of the vampire who infected her. He had told her that his son couldn't control his thirst, and neither could he. He believed vampires only brought pain, and he had shot her. Back on the plane, Eightball began making a wooden stake. The hijackers argued over their next steps. Carl told Bastian their best chance was to take control of the cockpit. Elias, despite the pilot's pleas, left the cockpit. He found his mother in the bathroom and helped her. When the hijackers returned, the pilot quickly locked himself back inside the cockpit. Nadia confronted Eightball, but he was ready. He shone a UV light on her, burning her skin, and she collapsed. He then told the others to fly without him while he studied her. He filled a syringe with her blood and prepared to inject himself. Elias arrived, pointing a gun at him. As Eightball tried to take it, the gun went off, shattering a window. Cabin pressure dropped and panic spread. Bastian warned they had 10 minutes of oxygen and the plane needed to descend. Nadia helped Elias put on an oxygen mask, grabbed the gun, and fired at Eightball, who escaped. The pilot passed out in the cockpit while keeping the door shut. The hijackers took advantage and broke in. Nadia gave Elias to Farid and told him to keep him safe. Suddenly, the plane dropped altitude. Nadia pursued Eightball and found him in a bulletproof car. She shot at him, but it had no effect. Ignoring her, Eightball injected himself with her blood and began transforming. Knowing she had to stop him, Nadia poured alcohol into the car and set it on fire. As she watched him burn, she recalled being told that their kind must not be allowed to spread. Eightball laughed, claiming she couldn't control the monster within. Nadia smashed his face. Smoke alerted the hijackers. Nadia extinguished the flames and returned to the cabin, where the hijackers opened fire. Passengers panicked and ran forward. Farid carried Elias. Meanwhile, the hijackers encountered the fully turned Eightball, who began biting and turning them. Nadia locked the cargo hold. Elias shouted that the passengers wanted to hurt her. Farid tried to reassure him, but someone shot Nadia. She defended herself and tried to flee. Elias begged her not to hurt Farid. Then Nadia heard the vampires trying to escape the cargo hold and rushed to stop them. She managed to lock Eightball behind a door. Farid was bitten while trying to help. Another man shot Eightball. To stop the infection, Nadia cut off Farid's hand. Curtis, now a full vampire, returned to the cabin. Nadia fought both him and Eightball, saving a stewardess. Afterwards, she returned to the passengers. Farid told them she was on their side. They all headed to the cockpit. Farid told Nadia that the plane was low on fuel and needed to land. Elias and Farid convinced her to hide in a dark space beneath the cockpit. Bastian remained with them. The pilot contacted a British airbase, informing them that the hijackers were now locked in the cargo hold. Soon after, Elias searched for Nadia's medicine as passengers heard vampires growling. One injured man, believing he could be saved, freed Eightball, who killed him immediately and attacked others. Nadia and Fareed realized the situation was worsening. People ran to the cockpit trying to break in. Bastian held the door. Nadia knew the plane couldn't land or the vampires would escape. Fareed suggested landing and blowing up the plane from afar. They went to the fuel tank to set explosives but found no timer. Nadia volunteered to stay behind and detonate it manually. She told Elias someone had to do it, but Elias refused to let her die. Elias ran to the cargo hold with a UV light, searching for the timer. He evaded the vampires and found it, but dropped the light while escaping. From the cockpit, Nadia saw him in danger. Bastian said the plane was on autopilot, and the airbase could land it. Nadia asked Fareed to promise he'd protect Elias. Knowing she wouldn't return, she bit Bastian and fully gave in to her vampire nature. At the same moment, Eightball attacked Elias. Nadia arrived and fought him. During the fight, he bit her. Elias quickly opened the cargo door. Nadia used it to push Eightball out. Fareed saw Elias still with her. When Eightball tried to re-enter, Fareed tilted the plane. Sunlight poured in, burning Eightball to death. Elias gave Nadia some of his blood. She revived, almost lost control, then stopped herself and returned to the cargo hold. Later, at the RAF base, Elias asked a translator to help Fareed, but she refused. Elias explained they had to save Fareed before sunset, or the vampires would attack. Soldiers sedated Elias. Colonel Drummond decided to wait as the vampires fed on corpses. Fareed begged the soldiers to listen, but they ignored him. In the end, they shot him and dragged him off the plane. The soldiers entered, unaware of the danger. Meanwhile, Elias, in an ambulance, used the sedative on the paramedic, took his teddy bear, and escaped. He ran back to the plane. Inside, the soldiers were attacked by vampires. Fareed saw Elias but couldn't warn him. Elias entered and saw his mother feeding on a soldier. He called her name. Realizing she was no longer the mother he had known, Elias made a difficult choice. He blew up the plane. Drummond and his team watched in shock. Fareed later found Elias near the wreckage. They embraced tightly, the only survivors of the horrific flight. What did you think? Did the ending surprise you, or were you expecting it all along? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next movie breakdown. Want more? Check out our recap of similar movie right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.